generally tune toms, whether it's one up and one down, one up and two down, or two up and two down, the way it is here. But tune these to each other, and tune those two to each other, because you're not generally not using them all at the same time. And the step down from a 12 to a 14 floor, even if the note is not really close or if it's really far away, it doesn't really matter that much because the sound difference is such a different style. So I mean, they're tuned to each other. Good man. And they're tuned to each other.
The beater you're using on the bass drum just now, I assume it's felt. It sounds a little bit soft.
It's not, actually.
Is it plastic? Far out. Let's hear the felt.
That softness is actually from that head pop.
I guess, yeah.
Felt.
Oh, yeah. Weightier though, I think. A little
It's
weightier.
much fuller, yeah, it's much fuller, yeah. But you're with the felt, you're driving the head more, I think, you know. Andre, do you use the plastic side all the time?
Depends of the gig.
With the loops, do you use the
With
plastic?
the loose, I go for plastic.
What bass drum head do you use? EMAD?
Again, depends of the gig. I image most of the time, but depending of the gig. Like from the Lose or Gavin Friday or Vengeance, it's completely different.
That's the plastic side again. It's got that kind of studio kind of click off, which is really nice. So that kit pretty much reskinned. Any questions about this kit before we move on to the jazz one?
Robbie,
Yeah.
just about tuning the front head of the bass drum.
Yes.
Obviously heads that have a hole in it.
Yeah.
The lugs around that are always going to sound different. What do you do when you're talking about getting equal tune on each lug? How do you get around the fact that there's a
Well, the hole actually doesn't make that much of a difference to the pitch at the lug point.
Right.
I mean, so I put the hole in this. I always use the hole over that side because I'm right-handed. I found that for recording for quieter recordings or even for live venues, when I used to put the mic hole on this side, I used to get some spill off the bottom of the snare drum into the mic in the bass drum, so I always move it over that side. It might seem painful, but it works. But you can kind of still hear the note. The note doesn't really affect the note that much. Once you don't put it over to the very end, you're okay. You need to give yourself an inch or two just so you can still hear the note.
Is there a massive difference between stock resonant bass drum heads and, like, say, Adam's EQ3 with a...
There is, yeah.
And do they really help sales of a bass?
Yeah, well,
like an aftermarket head.
Well, yeah, the aftermarket heads are more specific sounding, you know. Stock head is going to be a generic. It's either going to be a one-ply head or a two-ply head.
Yeah.
When you move up in kits, the more expensive the kit, generally, the more thought that's put into what heads that are put on, you know. A lot of the time, companies just strike deals with skin company and they use their skins because they've signed a contract and they pay money to each other, you know.
Yeah.
But the stock head that comes on this has a dampening ring on and stuff, and I think it's that one of the difference. When you move up in the Gretsch series up into the USA, they own this ring on. I don't know what it is. That's a single ply head, so that's like an ambassador with a ring on it. So, well, ambassador ring on, it's P3, Power Stone 3, I'd say. Or the head I think is like an EQ1. So no, it doesn't really make that much of a difference, to be honest. I mean, on my kit there, that's a colour ambassador.
Yeah.
That, so in terms of bass gear,
And it has pretty much the same sound as, like, if you were to say, the PDP series drums?
Yeah.
The way that the kits that have the white PDP
Yeah.
front skin?
That'll be more as same head.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just single ply with it.
So it'll be kind of a waste of time going out and buying €40 resin head, trying to
It depends. You depend on the speaker. If you want a specific sound, then go and buy a specific head for that sound. You know?
Yeah, okay.
With the PDP head, if you want to get more red out, you just cut the control ring out. Like, I did that with. I did it for Keith Carlock for his bass drum sound. And the 2 times that he was here, he likes a more bass drum sound, but he likes a PART3. So we just clip the ring out of it, you know. And I do that for some snare heads as well. Cut the control ring out of the PART3. Then you've got a thick ambassador.
Yeah, yeah.
Which works really well. You know. So that's that one. So, well, we can't show a couple of donkey walks. I just that there. This kit I'm going to treat it a little bit differently. This is a really small bass drum. Basically, it's what's known as a bebop kit or a bebop style bass drum. I'm going to put a coated head on this. I'm going to put, most jazz drummers will like to use a single ply head. I'm going to put a double ply head on this. I'm just going to demonstrate this. It's a bit coated, so it shouldn't be that much of a difference. With smaller drums, particularly jazz tunes and stuff, coated heads on all drums, so it's warmer, it's more controlled, you've got more expression. Also, you can use brushes on all surfaces, which you're not really going to use brushes on clear heads. Unless you want to use that sound. I mean, for jazz, it needs to be very clear, expressive. The note needs to be present with brushes. This has not got a hole in the front. It's going to be in the head full. Because basically a jazz tuned bass drum needs to be treated almost like a tom, as opposed to that one, which you treat as a bass drum. I'm not actually tightening that, I'm just getting to the biting point. It's just tightening.
Why a small bass drum?
For jazz,
Yeah. Like they were big.
they were at one point, yeah. But the drums seem to have evolved with the sound, actually. I mean, I think at one point all drums were big, weren't they? There was only really one size bass drum, maybe in the 20s or 30s, you know.
The Martian drum.
Exactly, yeah. But basically, modern jazz drummers just like a higher pitch because they're more melodic.
Well, the story goes that Roy Haynes was like one of the first Gretchen Dorseys, and he was the first kind of superstar who promoted himself really well. Always dressed up really snazzily. So he bought a sports car in Manhattan, and he couldn't fit a 20-inch bass drum in the car, so he got them to make them an 18 by 14 that size.
Is that right?
Yeah, because he used to use a big, like 20 or 22 depending on
That's amazing.
the group.
So it didn't really evolve with the sound, did it? Hey,
Apparently not.
aficionado.
That's hilarious. Jazzers, what? You can hear this is already, it's much more open now. Yeah.
other main thing is that it stays out of the frequency range of the double bass.
Exactly.
Because it's entirely acoustic music, so you've got a bigger drum. It really every time you hit it, it soaks up. So when bebop came around, they started to play the bass drum instead of 4 on the floor. They dropped bombs a lot more, some big accents. So that would cut out the double bass. So they started to use smaller drums to stay out of the range. Sorry?
Do you want to jump in the middle?
You can do fine for me.
Yeah. Heads I'm going to put on this kit are they're not quite coloured. They're called J1 text. It's like an opaque colour, but it's very, very bright. Naturally very bright, so it can lends itself very well to brush work. The brushes tend to be very clear. And the head needs to be bright for playing percussion because it's such a quiet sound. This is a USA wedge, so it's the real deal. It's 10 note like the other one. It's maple. It's a real classic. Like the last snare we used, it's finger tight, so no, there's different sizes, yeah, you've got different widths, you've got different shapes, different styles. Some, this is pretty standard. It's steel. Steel, and I think the solder is probably pretty standard as well. You've got some snares that are twice as wide, some are half as thick, some have got less actual springs in them, some have got brass either side, which I believe they've got a metal that makes it more sensitive. But that's pretty standard. I mean, you're getting into real specifics when you start changing snares. The only difference I found, the real significant difference between one snare and another, generally is the width of the snare. My own snare is up there, the aluminium one has got 40 strain on it. so it's twice as big as that one. And I found that it acts sometimes as almost like a natural dampening system for the drum. You get much more buzz off the drum, but I tend to get less ring from the drum when I have that on. So I've been using 40 strands diners for a few years, and they're amazing.
Do they make the snare more sensitive?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Would you get a lot more crack out of it as well? A lot more kind of cut if you were to put it on?
Not necessarily. I suppose that the cut's going to be determined by the head.
Okay, and the shell more.
Yeah, exactly, and the tune. And a lot of the time it's going to be determined by the bearing edge on the shell as well. Some of the more natural cutting snares, DW do a snare called the Edge.
Yeah, I heard
I'm
that.
a big fan of. And they've basically used, I think it's chrome over brass,
Yeah.
either side of the wooden shell, which gives it a really super sharp bearing edge, and that tends to have the best cut I've heard, you know, and that's determined by the actual bearing edge being steel and the shape of it and stuff, rather than really the snare.
Just about hoops, bypass hoops and
Yeah.
flash hoops, and just come out more about them, like just what bypass hoops being more close.
Yeah, absolutely. So it gives you a stiffer, it's generally gives you a stiffer top head, you know. I've got a brass, 6.5-inch brass drum that comes with super hoops on it, and I basically took the super off the top, I put a die cast tube on top, but I left the super hoop on the bottom, with the triple flange tube on the bottom. So I get a really stiff feel and focus off the top head, but the drum keeps its width, and it's kind of, it's dynamic, kind of, it's very hard to describe it. It keeps its projection from the bottom head, because the triple flange tube is still on it, like, you know. If a drum like this is going to have die cast tubes on top and bottom, it's going to be stiffer all around, you know. Whereas if you were to have a triple flange on the bottom, it's going to be kind of broader sound, you know.
Robbie,
Yes.
could you talk a little bit about snare beds being cut into the shell of the snare, like what they do, tuning around?
Yeah, well, some people mightn't be aware, but this drum doesn't have one, see. This drum doesn't have it. It's basically like the bottom of a snare drum. The bearing edge comes around most of the drum on a snare drum, both sides of where the snare sits on the bottom head. And a lot of modern drums, and some older ones I suppose as well, have what's called a snare bed, where the bearing edge has been taken away from where the straps meet the bearing edge, or where the bearing edge should be. It's been taken away, it's been flattened. So there's a groove being filed down or flattened down, and it basically allows the snare to sit more flush with the skin. So sometimes drums that have a snare bed will have intrinsically more sensitive snare sound to them. This one doesn't. Like Gretsch, the top end Gretches don't have snare beds on them, which is mad. So I've metal drum. It's up there. It doesn't have a snare bed on it. This doesn't have a snare bed on it.
You know, there's kind of an argument 2 and 4 for different companies.
I don't know whether, if I'm honest, I don't know whether it matters that much. You know, I don't think it does anyway. I don't really see the
Do you
point.
think around where the snare bed is, with the lug that's beside it,
Sometimes, yeah, you'll get a crinkling on the head and stuff.
yeah, it'd be hard to kind of,
Yeah,
because
sometimes.
there's nothing underneath the actual head there.
Yeah,
It's
you
kind of
get,
floating.
you get the air escape as well.
Yeah,
sometimes,
yeah.
and you
So
kind of
training can be a little bit tricky.
I've seen some drums the way the bearing edge or the snare bed starts like 3 or 4 inches and it's cut straight across. And they tend to sound kind of honky for once. They tend to bark a bit, you know. It's not really that fan of being a fan of it. You know. Does anyone want to do one of these drums for me? Paul?
No, I'd make a polyglot.
So I do the floor, Tom?
Yes.
against those mounting systems,
These
the
ones,
collars, those rims kind of things?
I like them on some drums. I think it depends on the drum sometimes, Paul, you know.
Yeah.
I've seen, obviously working in Music Maker, I've dealt with the ISS mount that grabs onto the hoop.
Yeah.
I've dealt with the OptiMount style, which mounts from the lug points.
Yeah.
I've dealt with these.
Because the funny thing is, you go into the studio and they say, hear that lovely resonance you have? Yeah, get rid of it. They want a note, sweet but short. Then they'll take that and enhance it whatever way they want. So all this blurb you read, oh man, this thing goes on for an eternity. So quite like a bass drum, you want a fundamental note, but brief.
I don't know whether that's effective. Well, sometimes it depends.
For instance, sorry, the exact opposite of that is to take that 12-inch tom and put it onto a snare stand.
But the snare stand chokes the drum.
Correct.
Straight away.
Correct.
Yeah.
The exact opposite. At 3 points, it's gripping into the drum, choking it. Whereas
Exactly.
that bucko is like literally, as you say, holding it in mid-air.
It's like you hold it with your hand.
Yeah, there's no intrusion on
Yeah,
the,
yeah.
the shell resonance.
Sometimes with some of them as well, if it's only at 2 points, the drum will still actually move and kind of. It's not held as fast, and it actually allows you to breathe a bit more, you know.
Which is either good or a bad thing. Sean,
No, it depends.
you give me the big eyes.
What do you like in the snare stand?
Well, I don't know if Rob's going to have an answer yes or no for anything, because it's all just about a sound that you want. Like your example is in a studio, and the question would be, I would always ask the engineer why they want that, because depending on the situation, if I'm being asked to record for somebody else, I would ask if the recording it is what sound they want, not what the engineer wants. I would also ask if it's my recording, I would tell the engineer this is the sound I want, and they have to deal with it after that. So it's all relevant. So the same as like the snare bed question. It's like you're just trying to get a sound. If you know what sound you want beforehand, then you know which way you want to go. But if you don't, then it's just about, which is kind of what this class is about, it's just about trying every single possible option and seeing how it fits for you as a sound, how it reacts as a player as well. It's something completely different. So you might have a setup that makes no sense on paper, but yet really suits the kind of music you want to do, or also just how you want the instrument to react. So it's got it all up in the air. And to be honest, as we know, it changes all the time. From gig to gig, from
Room to room, yeah.
From day to day, or
Yeah, room to room is a big
Yeah.
thing, yeah.
like I don't usually play my own drums on gigs. Hardly ever do actually. I usually play a house drum set, and you're walking in, and it's just a different relationship every time. So you have to figure out how you're going to work with the instrument to get what you need and make it sing. So, you know, sometimes I end up doing things that I would never do. You know, like tune it really low and crank one lug really high. That's that room with that instrument, and with the like 5 people that are to hear the gig, 5 people's clothing soaks up the sound different than 20. So
Yeah.
like, there's all of these things that you kind of just deal with as you go. But because I used to work in the shop as well, and the amount of things I learned about what one drum can achieve, like the scope of it, is just kind of invaluable. In reality, when you've got a player or a recorder, you're tapping into all those techniques all the time to just balance.
Yeah.
But like a good thing about snare drum stuff, like Tom mounted on the snare drum, or Tom mounted on a snare stand, is that just keep the claws loose. And even on the snare drum as well, I never tighten it. Actually, all my hardware I keep loose. Because it's resonating as well. Like if that sound is cranked all the time, it's just not moving as much as if it was just a little bit relaxed.
It all counts as out.
Yeah, like tapping your bass pedal onto your root, just because you're nervous that halfway through the gig you might fly off the bass drum. It's like, it's not going to happen. Just a little bit of tightening on it, just to keep it in place, and you're not cramping and killing the sound.
Yeah, well, you know the difference in tune between that and they're both 12-inch tom. toms, they're both Gretsch, they're both maple. That's got a 2-ply single head on it, or a 2-ply clear head on it. This has got single ply concrete. It's a completely different sound. It's much more refined. It'll become more apparent when Sean sits down at this kit in a little while. Why you need to tune these things. Will I tune these to each other? I will, absolutely. Yeah, and even it's kind of more important with the smaller drums that the notes are closer in relation to each other. Like, I'll show you. With likes of jazz drummers who use old tune, they like to play notes, they like to sit in on the melody and influence the melody, not only with just rhythm, with rhythms, but they like to influence the melody directly. So there's ones that need to be born to themselves. That's the heads on that kit. That's the heads on that kit and that kit changed and more or less tuned. So, is there any questions before we move on to just the last bit of the conversation?
It seemed like kind of drummers play without the bottom head on like their top.
Yeah.
So how does that change the sound?
It's very fast sound. They're basically stuff that they're hard sound from that sort of that. Or like that reggae drummers who use that's just really fast. You're only using one from one head.
So it seems like the likes of metal drums and things like that do as well, like running two toms and things like that.
Yeah, some lads do that, yeah. And a lot of times we can find as well, a lot of metal drummers, modern metal drummers, not cheap, they all use trade, so some person bad. It's in that situation. There's some metal drummers who have bass drums on the stage, so basically the effect on a drum naturally is that you're going to go that's it.